To do the formal handover, we're about to introduce the Premier and bring him in. And we've also got 7 jurors who are taking over from now on. This is our moment to step down and away. Well, not that we've been, it's been our moment anyway. This group of individuals have done an incredible piece of work. So I would like you to join me in welcoming firstly our jurors. We have Emma, Tony, come and grab a seat, Dulcie, who else have we got? Ashley, Douglas, Lachlan, and here comes Adrian. Okay, welcome Premier, and also Premier Jay Weatherill. So I think you're in the middle. You got the...
Hello everyone. Firstly, as the Citizens Jury, would like to acknowledge that we have been meeting on Kaurna land and we pay our respects to the traditional owners, past and present, across South Australia. And I think I can say for all of us jurors that the process so far has been intense, to say the least. And we'll hear more about that from Emma next. But we do now have a result. And the result is that the jury generally had a strong conviction in taking a position one way or the other, with 2/3 of the jury not wishing to pursue the opportunity under any circumstances, and one-third support a commitment to pursue under the circumstances outlined in the report. Thank you.
So process. Premier, of the 25,000 invitations originally sent, we are the 350 South Australians who make up Citizens Jury number 2. Our deliberations have taken place over 6 days with countless hours of private research and thinking. We reviewed information from Citizens Jury number 1. We educated ourselves in critical thinking skills. We interviewed representatives of stakeholder groups and we selected a witness list. We then heard from witnesses under themes of consent, trust, safety, economics and Aboriginal perspectives. Then began the deliberative process, and what a roller coaster it has been. We could have spent many more days deliberating this. Some feel under pressure to complete the task in the given time, and others are more than happy that this is drawing to a close and we can go back to our real lives. Premier, for better or worse, here is our report to you.
Firstly, I would just like to say thank you to the Premier for giving us the opportunity to have a say in this very important issue that does affect our whole state, so thank you. Many jurors have expressed concerns around trust, whether it be a lack of trust in our government around consent and transparency, a lack of trust in the Royal Commission document, a lack of trust in the citizen jury process, or a lack of trust in the government's ability to deliver a facility safely within a budget. I think this report does a good job of outlining the jury's thoughts on this issue, and it will give the government much to think about.
Thank you. So welcome, Premier. I've been asked to talk on the topic of safety. I think it's fair to say that many of the witnesses we heard from believe that the science could support the case for a geological disposal facility. But with any engineering endeavour, there's always risk, and there is a cost to mitigate that risk. So some of the concerns that jurors raised in relation to safety and risk. International shipping through unstable regions of the planet. Security of the above-ground interim storage facility. And Tony, the impact of long-term, low-level radiation exposure through construction and operation of the facility. These all highlighted a potential gap in the regulatory environment for managing nuclear and radiation risk. But ultimately, as an engineer, I think through this process I have found that I take for granted risk because it can be mitigated. But I think through this process I've learned there are a range of views that need to be considered when looking at this sort of an issue. And it's only when we come together as a community and talk together as a community about risk and safety that ultimately we can arrive at an acceptable outcome. Thank you.
Welcome, Mr. Premier. I'm here to talk about the economics of and the business model of the waste facility. We had, under the terms of reference and the question we were asked, we had 3 options to choose from. Being a yes, go ahead with the facility, and in the middle of the road, further inquiry needed, and reasons for no. I'll start with yes, and obviously the economic benefits of this would be more employment, manufacturing within the state, ancillary industries, trucking, road transport, all that sort of stuff. Then there are some people who in the room, based on the business model of Jacobs in the Royal Commission report, we're not real confident that they were based on assumptions. Now, obviously they're going to be on assumptions because there is no market. But just where Jacobs got those figures from was still a bit wishy-washy. Many believe that the economic risk to the state in going ahead with this waste facility was too strong to proceed. Again, based on the inconsistencies in the weaknesses in Jacobs' report, and there was no second opinion sought.
Thank you to everybody, and I would like to present to the Premier. For us, social and community consent is fundamental requirement. That's one thing that we like to tell you, no without consent. Consent is free of coercion and free of manipulation. There is a right to withdraw consent. Even if we provide you with consent in the future, there is a right to withdraw. We would like an informed consent. We would like a consultation that is cultural appropriate. We would like a consultation that is cultural appropriate for the First Nation people, for the Aboriginal people here in Australia, and we would like appropriate cultural consultation for the CALS communities. When we are talking about minorities, and I suppose I represent a minority because of the accent, it works for us, oral communication with interpreters and using visual aid. If you are coming to consult people in English, that may not be the first language. And then let's go to consider the Indigenous people, the interpreters, and to spend some resources into it properly. Aboriginal people say no, and government needs to respect this. 27 is on the report. 27 native title groups owners, they already say no. And as an Indigenous lady said to us previous weekend, no means no. We heard last weekend the impact, the hurt and the damage created by Marilinga, by the bond test. Then we need to recognize that. Thank you.
Today we did our polling and came up with results, and obviously, as previously mentioned, it was 70-30. So I'm presenting to you on the minority report, which was written as an outcome of this to reflect the views and any issues that people within that minority would have had. So this report will be news to probably the other 70% in the room as well as you. There's three main things in this report, and the recommendation is to change Section 13 of the Nuclear Storage Facility Prohibition Act 2000 to commission a further economic model. Go ahead with the process and let's see if we can find something accurate. That was a large part of the economic deliberations that occurred throughout this process. The second issue was that we have concerns that there was a bias of jury because this was an opt-in process. So obviously certain groups had much more motivation to come out here and express their views and put their views on other people as well. We think because it was an opt-in process and there was also very little hurdle in terms of identity verification, that we're not particularly sure. It would be difficult to prove that if everyone who is attending here was certainly invited personally. And that has an effect on the result as well, I think, and the accuracy of it. This possible bias in the jury has led to witness selection bias and every process that we've had to do following on from this. So this means that the jury selected. You have to respect them. It's the minority. You have to let them have their view. It is an opt-in process. Are you debating that? So in this, the minority report says that this led to witness selection bias. So we quite clearly had the majority of economic witnesses here were definitely no and no campaigners and affiliated with outside environmental groups. There is conjecture and unverified claims in the report which are due to time limitations because we don't really have the time necessarily to verify and vet everything that's in the report. So there are some things that we're not really sure about and we never really got to the bottom. And I think that does need to be examined. We agree with the ideological principles of consent and trust that have been put through this process. We think they're amazing principles, really, really quality in terms of consent and trust with the Indigenous communities. And but we think that without a specific site and without knowing who we're specifically talking to, it's very difficult to have a real vote about this because we don't know who we're supposed to be talking to. And we had people come and speak to us who, had their view, but we don't know if it's relevant. So that was contained in the report. Separate to that, though, I also have the final report to give to you. Would you like to receive it?
Thank you. Well, first thing I want to do is to thank you. Thank all of the people that have just presented and described the report, but most of all to thank every single one of you. I know this has been an absolutely gruelling and demanding civic service that you've offered on behalf of the rest of South Australia. So thank you so much for devoting your time and effort into what has been a very new experiment in democracy. And I think you should all be very proud of yourself and give yours a round of applause. Thank you. One of the things that I hear coming through very strongly is the question of trust or lack of it in a range of systems, whether it's lack of trust in the economics, lack of trust in government or regulatory bodies to be able to make this work, Aboriginal communities having a lack of trust about what this will mean for them and their people. In a deep way, what this whole process is about trying to restore trust in the political process by thinking of new ways of engaging with citizens. So understand that there's looks like quite a few pages there that we'll work our way through. I understand the very clear message that's being sent that the present proposal does not have support, and we understand that, and we'll certainly take that back to the process. During the course of this, we have also engaged with about 50,000 South Australians. About 30,000 of them have given online reports, and about 16,500 have given face-to-face representations. And we also have the benefit of a community survey, which we expect to receive in the coming weeks. All of the input that you've given and the very powerful deliberations that you've made and the reasons for your deliberation will form part of what we now do as a government. And this is a very important step for us about how we decide issues of controversy and importance in South Australia. And I want to thank you so much for all of your effort, all of your time, and for those of you that found it demanding and at times upsetting, I'm sorry for that, but you've made a contribution to our democracy, and for that we're all very grateful. Thank you very much.
I'll take the one that's working. Okay, so that brings our proceedings to a close. Just wanted to finally thank all of the jury and let you know that we will email you a copy of the report immediately, so you'll be the first ones to have it. Have loved meeting you, and just want to congratulate all of you and our jurors who have presented, and thank the Premier. Oh, he's coming back for more.
I should actually, on your behalf, I think also thank New Democracy for the fantastic job they've done. This is a massive experiment, and they've had to learn on the run, as well as all of us have had to learn. So can I thank the wonderful work that's been done by New Democracy and all the people around the room.
I'm happy to hand the microphone back for that. Okay, thanks jurors, and thanks everyone for attending this afternoon. Safe trip home.